Yes, hope all of us are doing fine. I'm Ernest, and I'd like to welcome each and every one of us to my channel of Ernest Sciences and Mathematics TV channel. In this particular discussion, I'm going to look at the second part of the coordination by macrocyclic molecules. And this is going to assist us trying to, of course, identify various range of course, molecules which are going to be perhaps described as inorganic compounds that are going to consist of these specific types of macrocyclic molecules. Now, in since we are going to be looking at this one and try to contrast it with the previous discussion we have had on the coordination of metals and amino acids. And this was basically a discussion of coordination of metals and proteins as ligands. Now, in this case, these macrocyclic molecules, as per our previous discussion, are going to be tetrapyrols, or what we refer to as tetradentate ligands, which we had given in terms of this specific description. So we have stated that this specific macrocyclic molecules, so I can give in terms of a summary form. So we are going to have this one as macrocyclic cyclic. So these are going to be macrocyclic molecules. So we have said that these are going to be tetrapyrols. And from our previous discussion, we have talked about the concept of heterocyclic compounds, which are going to be particularly unsaturated, therefore containing carbon double or triple bond given as such. And of course, they are going to be tetradentate given as such. So for the first case, these are going to be consisting of various types of other, of course, molecules or atoms which we're going to see given in terms of perhaps oxygen and nitrogen. And of course, they are going to be unsaturated, which means they're going to be consisting of such a kind of an arrangement which are going to consist of either a double or a triple bond in their specific structure. And they're going to be tetradentate, which means they are going to be consisting of 4 ligands, which are going to be coordinating with, of course, a centered form of metal to form a complex. And these are going to be ligands that are going to bind donor atoms to the center atom to form various types of a complex. Now, in our previous discussion, I mentioned different examples which we're going to come across of these specific tetradentate ligands. And I said that we can give an example of porphyrin. We talked about chlorine, and as well we mentioned chlorine given in that specific order. So we said that these are going to be one of the important examples that we can list for these examples of macrocyclic molecules, whereby we said that porphyrin is going to be contained in some of the complexes which we are going to see. For example, the hemoglobin, which we said that is going to be coordinated at the center by an ion, of course, ion given as such. And we said that for chlorine, this is going to be coordinated at the center as well for some of the, of course, complexes which we are going to see, like chlorine. And this is going to be the chlorophyll, which is going to be contained in plants that basically is going to be providing the green coloring pigments that is, of course, are useful in trapping light energy to form or to assist in the process of photosynthesis, as we mentioned. Now, we had also mentioned the concept of a type of a metal center, which can be given in terms of either magnesium. So if this specific type of a macromolecule is going to contain a metal center that is made up of nickel, then therefore this we refer to as chlorine. And lastly, we had talked about the concept of chlorine, which is going to be, of course, contained in cobalamin that we had given in this specific case. So this is going to be consisting of a center of cobalt ion given as such. And from our previous discussions and in some of our subsequent videos, I'm going to be giving some of the, of course, figures or which are going to be assisting us try to identify the various orientation of these specific types of metal. And in a sense, we're also going to look at deeper details of some of the examples which we can come across for these various types of inorganic compounds with tetrapyrols. And I'm going to be listing a number of them apart from the one which we have basically discussed. Now we shall look at one of the examples and try, of course, to identify various aspects of this specific type of inorganic compound. And of course, I've talked about this specific cobalamin, which can be given as such. So this cobalamin is going to be consisting of this macrocyclic, of course, molecule given as a chlorine and a cobalt, and therefore that's going to be forming a combination of this specific, of course, molecule that we're going to refer to as cobalamin. So this basically is going to be a coenzymatic form of what we refer to as vitamin B12, and therefore we are also going to be discussing in detail about the activity of this specific, of course, coenzyme and other types of course, examples that we're going to come across. So number 2, we shall look at another example of these specific types of inorganic compounds with tetrapyrols, and this is going to be, of course, what we have mentioned of chlorophyll. And I said that for this one, it is going to be bound by what we refer to as magnesium and chlorine. And these are going to be two constituents of this specific. So we shall have a microcyclic molecule of chlorine, and which is going to be bound with this specific ion of magnesium. And this is going to be forming what we refer to as a chlorophyll. Now this is going to be essential for the light absorbing chromophiles in especially photosynthesis, which we have basically mentioned in some of our videos. Now in this specific case, the concept of a chromophore refers to a part of a molecule that is responsible for its specific color or heme. No, in this case, this is going to be bringing more sense, especially in our discussion of the various stages of the process of photosynthesis. Now we shall look as well at this third example of this specific inorganic compound with a tetrapyrrole referred to as a heme. So heme basically is another example that consists of an ion center and a porphyrin ring. So we shall have this one given in terms of a porphyrin. So this is going to be porphyrin given, and ion center given as such, and this is going to be forming what we refer to as heme. So this heme is going to be, of course, very fundamental in trying to ensure that there's a transportation of oxygen around the body, especially in the organisms, and of course it's going to be found in what we refer to as hemoglobin. So we shall have this one, heme, found in hemoglobin. And it's also going to be found in cytochromes, and also in what we refer to as myoglobin. This is going to be myoglobin. Hope my handwriting is legible. So this is going to be one of the examples of inorganic compounds with a tetrapyrrole that is referred to as a heme, and it's going to be, of course, consisting of a porphyrin and a ion, of course, a coordination center given as such, and we shall have this one found in hemoglobin, as we said, which is going to be given as such, and also in cytochromes and the myoglobin. So we shall look at these two specific examples in our subsequent videos, which are going to be assisting us, particularly describe them in terms of structure and perhaps their specific relevancy. So we shall see that there are various forms in which we're going to come across, especially forms of this specific heme, whereby we can describe one of examples as green heme, which we are going to give in terms of D. So we shall have a discussion of heme D, heme perhaps C, and other forms which we are going to come across. And particularly for this one, this is going to be it's going to contain what we refer to as a chlorine as a form of a macrocyclic molecule. So we shall have another one like a seroheme. Seroheme also is going to be one of the examples of a macrocyclic molecule that we're going to come across, that is going to consist of two partially hydrogenated pyrrole rings, which we are going to be describing in some of our videos. Now basically these are going to be assisting us in trying to identify various range of this specific inorganic compounds with tetrapyrroles, and we shall mention other forms which we are going to be coming across, especially for the porphyrido, which is going to be, perhaps I can just give this one in case my pronunciation does not come out correctly. So we have talked about these 4 different types, which I've mentioned about the cobalamin, chlorine, heme, and so it's going to be porphinoid. And this is going to be a porphinoid nickel complex. And one of the examples of this one, together with the coenzyme porphinoid phenide complex and the coenzyme F430, which we are going to come across in some of our discussions, which are going to be examples of these specific macrocyclic molecules consisting of various range of metals which we can describe in this specific form. So compared to the coordination with what we refer to as proteins, we're going to note a key difference between these specific types of macrocyclic molecules. Now, in our previous discussion on the concept of this specific concept of aromaticity, I had mentioned that basically one of the specific characteristics that is going to be witnessed by, of course, aromatic compounds is the concept of stability. And this is going to be provided by the specific structure which we are given in terms of perhaps the Pharynx system, the concept of them being unsaturated. And therefore, we are going to see that compared with the proteins, the metal coordination macrocyclics are going to result in what we refer to as kinetic stabilization complexes, and which basically is going to indicate that these specific complexes are going to be stable. So we have talked about the concept of perhaps kinetic stability, and some of the aspects which we're going to be coming across, particularly on the concept of thermodynamic stability, or in this specific case, which we're going to be coming across in our various discussions. But of essence for us to understand is the concept of kinetic stabilization, which is going to be achieved particularly due to the concept of systems which we have described that are associated with the aromatic compounds. Now, in my previous the opening statement for the first video, I described these ones as unsaturated type of compounds, and as we're going to see some of the these specific macromolecules we're going to see are going to be aromatic, and therefore that's going to be providing a sense of this specific aspect of kinetic stability. Now, I'd like to invite our members to our other discussions which we're going to be doing, especially on the concept of coordination by nucleobases. And this is going to assist us differentiate between coordination by proteins or peptides, coordination by, of course, macrocyclic compounds, and coordination particularly by nucleobases, and try to see what are some of the complexes which are going to be formed. So I would like to stop there for today. Kindly check our description boxes for various links of other videos. Engage us in the comment section, and also ring that notification bell, subscribe, and of course follow us in our various social media pages for different types of discussions in math and sciences. So that is it for now, guys. Bye. God bless you. Catch us in our next video.